One of the main advantages of reading untranslated VNs is not only being able to read classics in their full glory, but also discovering lesser-known titles from the ocean of visual novel releases. And while there are many ways to find new and interesting stuff, one method I found to be quite consistent is the OVA adaptation criteria. As in, if the VN has an anime adaptation, it usually means that there's a likely chance that the source material was somewhat worth adapting. I've been more than once pleasantly surprised by the quality of said adapted VNs, even if the OVAs themselves were nothing more than titillating, raunchy, kinky-ass hentai. Hey there, this is Marin, and this is my review of Tropical Kiss. The story of Tropical Kiss begins when Kaito, the protagonist, finds himself once again jobless after having left his hometown to chase his big but so far unfulfilled dreams. Needing to pay his rent for his shabby apartment, he desperately begins searching for a new job. Luckily enough, fortune strikes as he finds a job application to work at a newly constructed vacation resort as a pool lifeguard. The only issue is that he can't actually swim. Needless to say, he doesn't get the job at first, but thanks to a recommendation from the daughter of the president of the company, a girl whom he met the same day of his job interview, he gets hired. Alas, things get slightly complicated as he finds out that his work colleagues are girls he had some sort of disastrous romantic history with, from a girl who dumped him before their first date to his childhood friend who rejected him when he mustered the courage to confess his feelings. Or at least that's how it looked from Kaito's perspective, because in reality, all of those blunders were fruit of a misunderstanding. But now that even the daughter of the president is openly and insistently asking Kaito to marry her, all the other girls are determined to set the record straight and try to win Kaito back. The main gist of Tropical Kiss, as well as its strongest point, is that by the end of the prologue, every single heroine has openly confessed their feelings directly to the MC, who is now in a dilemma about whom to choose. I find this premise to be really strong for mainly two reasons. The first one should be obvious. As a setting, it's as indulgent and fantasy-fulfilling as it gets. This type of premise is probably not the most original within this medium, but from my experience, I feel it's usually reserved for Nukaji VNs rather than character-focused VNs. It's also quite entertaining to see how the different ways of seducing the MC differ from girl to girl, often creating hilarious and lighthearted infighting between them. The second reason why I feel this premise works so well is that it basically forbids the MC from going full donkin. The protagonist knows full well how they feel towards him. There's no room for doubt that perhaps they are just being friendly to him, so to speak. He knows about their romantic feelings, and the whole point of the common route and the beginning of each of the individual routes is figuring out his feelings and finding his answer. Now, to be fair, there's a couple of heroines where he isn't completely sure whether those feelings towards him are actually real, which one could attribute to him being the usual thick-headed protagonist. But for the most part, I feel that doubt is used as a narrative tool to help the MC realize his own feelings towards them, rather than an excuse to overextend whatever drama they could have added. Speaking of the individual routes, I think this game has two clear standouts, Rika's and Izumi's routes. The former is a surprisingly well-crafted story, with really good character development, as well as tasteful bits of drama, which I definitely wasn't expecting, nor their sheer quality considering the general humorous tone of the whole experience. Izumi's route, on the other hand, is non-stop comedy with a bombastic and absurd conclusion that perfectly fits her character. The ending of her route had the credits and me rolling alongside. Matsuri and Nagi's routes were perfectly enjoyable, if perhaps a bit forgettable, but the one that, in my opinion, could have been a bit better handled was Hanabi's, the childhood friend. Her route started with an interesting conflict regarding her feelings of regret, which I thought had quite a lot of potential. But once that was, rather quickly, if I may add, resolved, I felt like things lost a bit of steam. None of it was what I would consider bad. But bearing in mind that her route was most likely the true route, I feel it should have had a bit more meat, similarly to Rika's route. One aspect of the game that deserves plenty of praise is the overall production values and presentation. The art quality is just superb, especially with the character sprites. They are incredibly expressive and softly detailed, with plenty of poses that beautifully represent each character's personality. The game also uses basic animations such as sliding and zooming in and out of the sprites, which sure is nothing revolutionary, but it's done so smoothly that it greatly brings life to each scene. To give you a better idea of how good the production values of this VN are, take a look at this.
ロードして平気？
再開したぜ。たっぷり。
Did you catch it? Yeah, that was a loading screen. They actually made a proper loading screen with its own key art and a visual in and out transition. They could have just easily had a small window that says loading. But nope. Obviously, as this is a VN, the loading is almost instantaneous, but that's what I mean. There was absolutely no need for one, but they made it regardless.
まとめ。
Overall, Tropical Kiss is an extremely pleasant read that strikes a perfect balance of great comedy, intimate and tasteful romance, as well as some very occasional and welcomed bits of drama. This is all emphasized by a truly great presentation that elevates it far above most games of the same genre. Even if the quality of the routes could have been more even, just like any other game to be honest, none of them significantly lowers the general enjoyment, with the strongest ones providing a deeply satisfying romantic comedy experience. I give Tropical Kiss an 8 out of 10. Also, this game has navels, plenty of navels.